Nitromouth. We're here at Willowbank Raceway, and I've managed to nab Jim Oberhofer. This is an interview I've been really looking forward to. So first of all, Jim, welcome back to Australia, and what role are you playing in Jim Reed Racing here this weekend?
Well, thanks for inviting me on, Dan. I really appreciate you reaching out to me and doing this. But my role here with Jim Reed Racing is it's to help and to offer my experience and offer my input. Bruce, Phil, and Jim Reed, they're like family to me. And
sure, yeah.
Bruce is, I've said this many times. He's one of my best friends I have in this world. It's just a shame that we live so far apart, but to be able to come down here and work with Bruce and get to work on Black Mamba and hang out with Jim Reed and hang out with Phil, and we just have a great time. We're serious about our racing when we come out here, and we're also serious about having a good time and enjoying each other, and and our goal is we want to win. So
absolutely.
Coming down here for this race, the goal is to try to get the car to where there's some consistency. We made some changes in the fuel system for the first race of the year back in Sydney in November, and had a couple of issues there. So getting some of those things sorted out, and hopefully going out and making some good runs. We did okay yesterday in testing. I think we've addressed those fuel system problems and engine problems, and now today we're hoping we can go out and put together 3 good runs and hopefully lead to a win.
Absolutely. So I want to dive into something here. So what's a responsibility that Nitro crew chiefs like yourself have nowadays that didn't exist 10 years ago?
Well, I think, the technology of a top fuel car or a funny car in the Nitro ranks is grown a lot more, so there's a lot of things on there that you really have to pay attention to. So you're almost like an analyst. You're looking at things and trying to figure out what application of fuel, what application of clutch that you're wanting to put into the race car, your power curve. So like a lot of things we have now, so there's tune-up programs. So you're inputting air, you're inputting things to hopefully make more power with the race car, make the right amount of power for the racetrack.
Right.
My good friend Ron Toller, the crew chief of Ron Capps' Napa Funny Car, he told me early last year when we started putting together Paul Lee's funny car, he goes, Jimmo, he goes, we are drunk with horsepower with these Nitro engines.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be a truer statement. Now it's managing that horsepower.
Right.
And, we make a lot more horsepower now than we did 10 years ago. So we have these programs now that kind of give us the ability to hopefully put the right engine setup in the car based on the weather conditions.
Sure, yeah.
So a crew chief has to stay on top of that all the time. There's also other things as far as the track goes. You're getting more information with how the racetrack, whether it's temperature, grip, things like that.
Yeah. You
take all these things into consideration, and it's really keeping track of everything. So as a crew chief, especially for somebody like Bruce or myself, it's keeping track of everything that you've done with the car. So the paperwork that's involved in one of these things now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And going back to the old days, when Jim Reed was winning championships over here, or Big Daddy Don Gartlitz or Connie Kalitta, whoever it may be, it was more of a they were more involved in the mechanical side of things, and the development on the mechanical side of things, and unfortunately we're kind of handcuffed a little bit on the advancements we can make on the mechanical side of things these days. So the NHRA over in the States are very strict with certain things. There's moratoriums out there that we can't do this, can't do that, we can't do certain things. So we're kind of all tapped out a little bit in certain areas, but there's areas you can work on to make more power, whether it's camshaft related or how your supercharger works, ignition timing graphs, all those types of things. But the old days of the guys like Big Daddy Don Gartlitz or Connie or guys who really developed the sport to what it is today. Those days aren't there anymore. To really get creative with how you build an engine and build power and stuff like that.
Is there still room for innovation?
I think so. it's innovation in different ways.
Right.
You know, so it's innovation in how you apply that power and how your chassis setup is, and things that maybe back in the old days weren't as relevant now. They are relevant today.
Right. Yeah.
And it's challenging sometimes. I mean, each decade of drag racing had its own set of challenges. You know, and for me, starting out in the 80s, going racing, and then with alcohol cars, and then eventually with Kalitta Motorsports. 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Each decade had its own uniqueness about it, and what made it special, and what was the big thing. So when I was at Kalitta Motorsports, I remember back in 2003, we put a 6-disc clutch in the car. We were the first ones to do that on a consistent basis and run it. Dale Armstrong had tried it in Jerry Tolliver's car about a year or so before, and but they didn't have much success with it. And then we tried it, and we had success with it. And so like that decade, in the mid 2000s, it could be brought back to all the 6-disc clutches, where a lot of performance came from. Before that, it could be supercharger development in the 90s. When we went from running the Littlefield and Mooneyham blowers up to SSI blowers and eventually PSI blowers. So like each decade has its uniqueness about it, which really made it special.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to ask you, what's one of your favorite racing memories from here in Australia?
Well, without a doubt, and I've had a lot of great memories here, but without a doubt, it was racing with Scott Kalitta back in 2006 when we went out with Sano, Rapasar's car. We ran 451 and 332 and won that race. That was unbelievable from the standpoint that it was a special weekend, because before we did that, Phil went out and ran the first 450 run in Australian drag racing history, and that was special for us because that was a car we'd sold them, and we worked with Bruce and Phil, and really let me get that. Oh, sorry, it's Bruce.
Sorry,
it's my mate.
Oh,
so we were talking about it.
okay. Welcome to the show.
But that was special because they went out and they ran the first 450 in Australian drag racing history, and so there was a sense of pride for me that we were able to help them make that first 450 run there. And then we came back later that night and ran I believe that was the first 330 mile an hour run over here, and ran 451. So that weekend was special, and it capped off with Scott winning the race. And it always meant a lot to me racing with Scott, because he was like a brother to me, a big brother to me. And I would probably say after that, when we came back here at the end of the 2008 season with Hillary Will and won the Scott Kalitta Memorial race, that Jim Reed really pushed really hard to make happen. And winning that race with Hillary was pretty special for me. That there's a mission that we were coming home with that trophy one way or another. But a lot of great memories over here.
Absolutely. Tell me, what's the most Aussie thing you've experienced at a racetrack here?
Well, I have to say it's tea time. I'll never forget the first year that we raced over here in 2005, and my late wife Tammy and my daughter Ashley were here with me, and we were up in the trailer. We had Dave Grubnick was driving the car we were working on, and Scott was driving the other car for Sano. And my wife she came all excited, and she says, "Jimmo, you wouldn't believe it. We're having tea time this afternoon." And I go, "You gotta be kidding me." But they had tea time and biscuits and cakes and all this stuff. And little did I know that would just lead to just a pure comedy later on in life when I came back here in Australia, especially with Jim Reed.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me something. So after more than 3 decades in the NHRA, what's something about racing that's surprisingly remained the same?
Well, it's the competitiveness of everybody. Every driver, every crew chief, every crew member today, just like back in the early days of drag racing, they want to win.
Yeah.
And, when you show up at a race, it's just like, coming over here. Bruce and Phil and Jim and myself, we like, we want to enjoy ourselves and have fun and stuff, but when we're at the racetrack, we want to win.
Yeah.
And, and there's competition everywhere. Whether you're in the States and you're running a Schumacher car, a Force car, a Kalitta car, Steve Torrance, anybody, there's competition over there and there's competition here. Over here the competition's different. You've got Sano's cars, you've got the Lambertina bunch, and so there's competition no matter what way you look at it, and that desire to win and the desire to throw out the greatest run ever at that time, to where what you want to do is you want to make your competitors go, holy crap, did you just really do that?
Yeah.
And that's what we like to do, right, Bruce?
Yeah, cool. So tell me, what's been the biggest change in the last 3 decades?
I would say the struggle for corporate backing has changed a lot, and drag racing has changed because corporate America has changed a lot.
Sure.
And the old days of being able to take and put a company's name on the side of a car and have it do great things for that company. Companies don't look at that anymore. There's so many different things out there where companies can get cheap advertising, whether it's through Facebook or Google or this or that.
Yeah.
And social media has really taken over.
Yeah.
And so it's really made a lot of the team owners and sanctioning bodies have to rethink, how do we still make our sport positive and powerful for a business to get on board. So
Absolutely.
So the days of like the viewership on TV isn't as important maybe as a business to business opportunity for a company out there. I know my time at Kalitta Motorsports, especially with Mac Tools, their sponsorship, what they saw was successful in their sponsorship, it changed.
Yeah.
So at first it was about branding everywhere, and then it was about business to business opportunities or social media or whatever it may be. So to really try to stay on top of that with corporate America over there, or just corporate people in general, it's challenging. It's very challenging, and the cost of racing has, of course, increased. Because you have that competitiveness. Everybody wants to win, and they're going to spend the money that they need to spend in order to win, and the corporate involvement hasn't really caught up with what it really costs to race.
Exactly.
And that's nobody's fault. It's just the way it is. So that's a big change, and that's something that I know over in the States we're really battling with, really trying to work hard to figure out, and hopefully someday corporate America will fall back in love with motorsports and mainly drag racing in general.
Absolutely. So tell me, as a crew chief, what surprises your new crew guys after their first couple of events on a team?
I would probably say it's like, we're really not in a rock and roll band. We're not rock stars. There's a lot of work that goes into putting one of these cars out on the racetrack. The cool part of it, for a lot of guys, and I've always said this over the years, the cool part of it is when you're standing out on the starting line and the car makes a successful run down the racetrack and puts a big number up on the board, and the fans go wild and your competitors are in awe, whatever it may be. But then you got to come back, you got to work on the car.
Yeah.
And that's still a cool part. You still have fans, they watch you and they're cheering your team on as you're tearing the engine apart, putting it back together. But when the music's done playing, as they say, or the engines are done running and you have to go back to the shop and the toilet's broke on the trailer, somebody's got to fix it. And as we could say, that's a crappy job. Nobody likes to do that. But, there's so much that goes into putting a car out on the racetrack.
Yeah.
You know, the truck and trailer has to be maintained properly, otherwise it can't make it to the next event.
Yeah.
You know, parts and pieces have to be ordered. You know, I've always joked that, you know, you can't go down to your local auto parts store and, you know, say, hey, I need a, you know, set of heads for a, you know, top fuel engine or a set of pistons. You know, you have to be, you know, constantly thinking ahead, you know, especially over in the States. I mean, you're thinking ahead probably 3 months at all times.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get parts. You know, you can't just call up and order something and have it there the next day. So, you know, it's something that's, you know, that is important, you know, and making your car go down the racetrack and all that. And a lot of the new guys, you know, it's being out on the road, and, you know, some of them are like, oh, I got no problem with it, but, you know, when they're young and they've been away from home for a few weeks and they've been sleeping in a hotel, and, you know, maybe it's not exactly what they thought it would be. But you get, you know, every now and then you get some guys, they're all about it and they love it. But then there's some of them that they're like, yeah, I need to go home and get a regular job and go
for sure.
do regular things. This isn't for me.
Yeah.
So once they figure out how many hours they work a week, and this is what I get paid less than minimum wage.
Do it for the love.
Do it for the love, exactly.
Yeah. So tell me, what was a racing highlight for you in 2019?
I think the whole year for me was a racing highlight. It started out coming down here. You know, and I've said this many times, like, you know, I mean, I worked for Connie Kalitta for, you know, almost 31 years, and when I left the team, it was different, you know, and, you know, one of the first guys to call me and want, you know, get me back up on my feet was Bruce. And, you know, so coming back down last year, you know, I'd been down here in November and we figured a couple things out. We didn't make enough runs, right? So he says, hey, come back down here in January. We run in Willowbank, we run in Sydney. So I was down here for 3 weeks. Yeah. And we were here at this race last year, and we went out first round, and I kind of like the all-run format. I don't know how it all works, but I'm learning every time. Yeah. But we went out first round, and the first thing as a crew chief or a crew member, anything, the first thing you look at is the wind light. Right. Well, the wind light didn't come on, but we went down the track, and the guys were excited. I think we ran like 4:04. Is that what we ran? Something, you know. And I'm like, well, the wind light didn't, but everybody was happy. Yeah. And at first, I didn't quite understand why would we be happy. The wind light didn't come on, but the thing was, the car went down the track, and it had been struggling to go down the track. And then I realized what was happening, that you know, there was excitement because the car went from point A to point B. It didn't run the best, it didn't win the round, but everybody was happy. Yeah. And then that's what really made me realize, like, this is what drag racing is all about. And then the next round we came back and we ran 387. It was, you know, career best number at 1,000 feet for the team. And, you know, and then, you know, final round, we were running pretty good, but we broke the blower belt. But then a couple weeks later, we went to Sydney, and we made it to the final round. We ran, we made a great test squirt, just ran at 300 feet, shut it off. And then first round, we run 385. So I was like, wow, another career best. And after I had 381, and we were chomping at the bit to run the final. And then they had that unfortunate incident with the Pro Mod car that went through the net, and then the race got canceled. And, you know, so we didn't, you know, I really felt we could have run a, you know, 378 in the final. But, you know, we didn't get that opportunity, but that was a big highlight for me in kicking off 2019. And then, you know, going to race with Clay Milliken and Mike Clover, that was fun, you know, and, you know, not a lot of people expected much out of, you know, that team, and we did good. You know, we made our fair share of final rounds and stuff, and it was kind of, it was a small team, obviously not a very big budget, but we did a lot with nothing. And then you know, coming out running with Paul Lee with the funny car, that was exciting. You know, Paul's a just a dear friend of mine, and just like Bruce, he called me up right away. Hey, I want to put together a funny car team. I want you to steer the ship for me. And I'm like, all right. So when we finally made that happen, myself and Donnie Bender and Paul Lee and then Krista Baldwin, the Greek's granddaughter, making all that happen and finally getting out there to put Paul's car on the racetrack and actually see all this hard work that went into putting this car together happen, that was huge. And then, the end of the year, we ran career best ETs and speeds with Paul's car, and to see the appreciation from a guy who almost died, with his heart attack that he had, and then just the appreciation for life that he has, and the appreciation for people that he has surrounded himself with is. It's unbelievable. So the whole year for me was really about friendship, about family, about getting back to what made me fall in love with drag racing back when my dad took me to my first drag race when I was, God knows, just a little kid. And I realized why I love drag racing, and these guys, Bruce and Phil and Jim were the ones who really made that happen for me and kicked it off, and then that just set the tone for me for the whole rest of the year.
Yeah.
Well, when it's around Phil, anything's funny, but let's just say that we have succulent fun.
That's
we?
it. But that was a succulent run.
Oh, funniest moment, God, it's since when we came back after 3 years off. We had the intensity of 2-car team, corporate. Dad was running Sydney Dragway, and Phil won 3 championships. Martin Smartis won 1. We were runner-up 3 times. But towards the end, the fun had vanished. It was a grind. It was a slog. So when we decided to come back the year before last, we came back with the philosophy that we were going to have fun. And if we weren't having fun, we weren't going to do it. So the first year was a set-up year, and we had a bit of fun. Last year we had a ball. I had probably the best years racing. We didn't win anything. The car went, every time the car went down the track, apart from our crankshaft braking shit at Sydney, it's just been awesome. We've run good. The current, again too, when we used to race, I had what I considered to be the best crew. Where I could sit in here, because Jim wasn't here all the time, if at all, and I didn't have to worry about what went out there. I had the best crew with the best driver and the best car. I didn't have to worry about anything. So when we came back after 3 years, only one of our original crew guys returned.
Wow.
But we were so fortunate to be able to gain. We got Gus Asia, who's been around Top Fuel Cars for 30 years. He was at a loose end. And so we got him on board. Corey Summerson, our clutch guy, came back. He's the original guy from our team. And then I rang Jim, and Jim says that I was being a friend. I think I was being an opportunist. So I got him down here, and but we just made sure the 3 weeks last January between Sydney, Willowbank, and then Sydney again, we just had a blast. We're in the shop every day working on the car. Every time we ran the car, it went 391, 389, 387, 385, 381. But we just had fun, and to have an entire new crew. And then halfway through the season, we picked up Dave Archer, Mad Dog, as everybody affectionately calls him, or we now call him the Golden Retriever because he's had his hair dyed blonde. And it's easy, but it's fun. And of course, the other important fact is my partner Kim and Phil's wife Julie and Dad's wife Denise, and the other crew guys, when they bring their wives and girlfriends, they keep us fed and watered. But the key thing was to have fun, and we've been having fun. Breaking the crankshaft in Sydney, whilst everyone goes, oh, that's tragic and all that, it's part of what we do. It's a phenomenon that they're experiencing in America. It wasn't going to be long. The Rapasadas have been chasing it, and now we've experienced it, and we're doing the best we can to curtail it. And but even on the day, we still had fun despite that loss. But so it just the fun things we do. You'd have to have a camera cornered in the middle to pick up just the little stupid things that go on where we all end up rolling around the floor laughing because it was just something. It's usually at the expense of someone. Yeah, he's copped it, I've copped it, Phil cops it, you know, there's other stories around of Jim had a bad back, so Phil decided to take him to a remedial massage therapist, and they both got guys. You know?
No, he did.
Phil got the guy and Jim got the girl, and so.
Well, I think he was a man.
So just it's hard to pinpoint, but last year, especially, and this year, it's just been a blast. It's really been fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, probably one of the funniest things that happened last year. I think it was the first time I was down here. Whenever Bruce comes over to the States, it was always comical that they would take him to Outback Steakhouse. Everybody always taking Outback Steakhouse. Oh, is this authentic Australian food? Blah, blah, blah.
I thought it was a standing joke.
Yeah. So when I come down here last year, and this goes back to the first time I come down here, I'll never forget Jim Reed and his wife Denise. They invited my wife and myself out to the steakhouse. They're talking about this great steakhouse we're going to, and it's new, and all of a sudden we end up showing up and it was a Lone Star Steakhouse. And I'm like, Lone Star Steakhouse? Are you kidding me? We have those things over in the States. They're not that good. So anyway, we go there, and it was funny. We laughed about it. Well, then years later, it was last year, Jim is talking to Bruce and Phil like, hey, we're going to take Jim out to dinner tonight. He says, I've got this fantastic place for ribs. We'll go. And he asked me, he goes, do you like ribs, Jim? I go, yeah, I love ribs. So I got this great place. I'm like, okay. So we, Jim tells Bruce and Phil where this place is. And they're like, it's Outback Steakhouse. And so we drive, we're laughing, we drive and we go to this Outback Steakhouse, and Jim, of course, is all excited because these ribs are fantastic. The only person who makes better ribs in the world is his wife. And I've had her ribs, they're very good, by the way. And we pulled up to this Outback Steakhouse, and we just laughed. So I took a picture and I posted it on my social media stuff. And I said, I came all the way to Australia, and my buddies took me to the Outback Steakhouse.
And because we were
for authentic Australian
because
food.
Dad never said where he was taking us, and I get out of the car and I look at it, and I said, "You've got to be joking!" Not that they've got bad food, if anyone from Outback Steakhouse is watching, but it was like, and then of course he thought he was getting some payback from.
Oh yeah. And then we were at Krispy Kreme Donuts right after that, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm back in the States.
We try to send him home a few kilos heavier.
Oh man, they accomplish that every single time I'm here. It's like non-stop eating all the time.
The key thing is, Dan, is to make sure we're having fun. And
absolutely.
And the camaraderie between a lot of the fuel teams is terrific.
Yeah.
And like just send the knock the door, Phil Lamartina.
Yeah.
And it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not worth it at all.
It's a big part of what makes this what it is.
Oh yeah. It's it's too hard. This stuff's too hard, as it is, to go out there and not enjoy what you're doing, because it just becomes another job than what's the same.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but it's fun.
Excellent. Well, Jim, I really appreciate your time today. And before we go, I just want to ask you about your book.
Yeah.
How can we find it?
Well, it's on Amazon. It's you go to Amazon.com, Top Fuel for Life. It's on there, and with what I'm doing now, and I started my own business down in Plano, Texas, Victory Lane Quick Oil Change, and it's kind of resurrecting itself because now I've got a whole new group of people who didn't know I wrote a book.
Right.
And it's been pretty amazing the last few weeks. I've probably given away, probably 150 books
Yeah.
down there to people that don't know anything about drag racing or me or anything. But you know, cancer's in a lot of people's lives, and struggles are in a lot of people's lives, and
Yeah.
you know, so I've gotten a lot of good compliments from people after reading the book, like, wow, this was a great book. So it's you know, it's starting to resurrect itself a little bit, and it's exciting because, you know, when I did that book, my only reason I don't make any money on that, and every dime I ever made I put into my Tammy O Foundation after my late wife. You know, it was about helping people. That's all it was, and it's managed to do that for a lot of people, and that's something that I'm really proud of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim, I really appreciate your time here today, and that's been another episode of Nitromouth. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
David.
it.